Right, good morning ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the meeting of Cabinet Staffordshire County Council today, Wednesday the 19th of June. Good morning. First item is apologies. Mr Bradbury, do we have any apologies?
Good morning, Leader. Yes, we have two apologies from Councillor Simon Tagg and Councillor Robert Pritchard.
Agenda item 2, declarations of interest in accordance with Standing Order 16. Do we have any declarations of interest? For the record, nobody is indicating. Agenda item 3 is the decision notice of the meeting held on the 15th of May 2024. Is it your wish that I sign that off as a correct record of the meeting?
Move it.
That is so moved. Agenda item 4 is the Leader's Update. Ladies and gentlemen, as a Cabinet, one of our key commitments to residents and businesses is to support our economy to grow. Since we last met, I've been proud to see a raft of examples of how we're making that happen. From attracting big investors of the future at the National Conference at the UK Reef last month in Leeds, to making our own investments in Staffordshire's future, we're working hard to generate more and better paid jobs for everyone. I think there's a danger I'm going to steal some of your thunder again. Our Green Solutions programme, for example, provides free support to help Staffordshire businesses become more sustainable and reduce costs at the same time. With free energy assessment and grants of up to £100,000 to make changes, we've been urging eligible business owners not to miss out and to get in touch about how they could benefit. From green energy to green spaces, in the past month we've also announced an £18 million investment to some of Staffordshire's best loved outdoor spaces. Country parks at Cannock Chase and Chasewater, the 92 miles Staffordshire Way, are earmarked for improvements in the coming years, and it's a win-win for residents and businesses, bringing economic benefits to the county by way of visitors to the area, as well as improving our green spaces and carefully protecting our important habitats for plants and wildlife. We will be seeking your views on these wide-ranging improvements in the coming months. I know that you value stunning green spaces on your doorstep, but I also know that you value a positive future for our town centres that are vital too, which is why I was pleased to see that Ion Developments have been selected as our development partner for an ambitious regeneration scheme in the centre of Stafford. The Eastgate Regeneration Scheme aims to make the area more attractive to new residents, businesses and visitors, repurposing vacant buildings and lands so that Stafford can prosper and grow as one of the UK's leading county towns. The proposals are likely to include new public and green spaces near to St Chad's Place and a new South Walls Square supported by a mix of living and commercial spaces that better connect the various parts of the town. And I look forward to Councillor White leading the way on that as it progresses. Which leads me to say a few words about connectivity and in particular our roads. You don't need me to tell you that our roads are an essential part of daily life, getting many of us to school, to work and to visit friends and family. With last winter being one of the wettest and stormiest on record, our crews have seen a major increase in reported defects compared to previous years. At our last meeting, I referred to early plans to supercharge the work we are doing to tackle this and fix more roads. These plans are now in place, led by Councillor DeVille, and will see more crews carrying out pothole repairs over the next 12 months. An extra £8 million will be invested into getting potholes repaired more quickly, as well as improving drainage and doing work that will prepare us for more extreme weather events in the future. Finally, I'd like to wish all those attending our Staffordshire Apprenticeship Graduation Awards on the 9th of July a fantastic event with your friends and family. We've referred to apprenticeships before, and I think they're an absolutely superb way for people to get started or move on in their careers. You are one of the most important investments for the future, our apprentices, and we look forward to celebrating your achievements with you. But I'd also like to offer my congratulations to all Staffordshire's residents recently named in the King's Birthday Honours, many of them sharing a theme of volunteering and public service. I would specifically like to mention Phil Pusey, who has received an MBE for his services to the community in Burton and Staffordshire, not only in his capacity as Chief Executive Officer of the Staffordshire Council of Voluntary Youth Services, a bit of a mouthful, but also for his work as Chair of Burton Albion Community Trust and as a trustee of Burton YMCA and Eagle's Nest Project. And to boot, he's a really nice person. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the Leader's opening remarks. moves us forward to agenda item 5, which is minutes of the property subcommittee held on the 5th of June 2024. Is it your record that I sign that as a correct record of the meeting?
Move it.
Is so moved. Agenda item 6, Staffordshire Means Back to Business, brought to you by the Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for Economy and Skills, Councillor White.
Thank you very much, Leader. So I anticipated that that you might try and steal a little bit of my thunder, so I've tried to effect a swerve this month, which I'll come on to in a moment. Before I do, as always, I'll firstly provide an update for Cabinet on the number of universal credit claimants within Staffordshire. This is relatively static, as it has been for some time now, so we saw a decrease of 30 claimants in Staffordshire, which means that our claimant rate has remained steady at 2.9% of the working age population. As I like to remind colleagues, when we're talking about these statistics, that is steady at a much lower rate than both the regional and the national average is. The average for the region being just over 5% and for England at 4%. So we remain an incredibly good place for people who want a job. Within those figures, the youth claimant count has seen a small increase of 15 claimants. So again, a relatively static picture. On that front, and slightly off script for my update, we'll all have seen the news this morning that inflation has finally reached its trend rate, its intended trend rate of 2% in the latest Bank of England report. That is going to be huge for the economy of Staffordshire, as it will for the country. It represents a return to normal conditions, and I think we will see that reflected in terms of employers' intentions as the months go forward. So we await the results of that with some interest and optimism. Now, I said that I tried to effect a swerve, and the swerve is towards summer, which some of us might have noticed creeping out from behind the clouds over the last couple of days. And tomorrow is the summer solstice, the official start of summer. So I thought I'd talk about our tourism sector a little bit today. Yes, thank you. I thought it was a good swerve. And a huge part of our economy here in Staffordshire, worth nearly £2 billion and employing over 30,000 people in the county. So Cabinet will be aware of the substantial amount of work we've been doing to establish a local visitor economy partnership, our seat at the top table nationally for visitor economies around the country. And I'm pleased to say that we've now appointed a chair for our LVEP, Alistair Budd from Trentham Estate, one of our largest visitor attractions and one of the most popular paid-for gardens in the entire country. We're recruiting actively for members of the local visitor economy partnership board. We've had some very exciting expressions of interest for that, but I would just like to use this opportunity to say that we are still inviting applications from people who are involved in tourism and hospitality, who might be interested in playing a part in shaping how that offer is promoted and supported within the county. One of the areas where we have a growing reputation in Staffordshire is as a foodie destination, and it's been pleasing in previous meetings to be able to highlight Upstairs in Lichfield, our first Michelin-starred restaurant, which was recently named the 46th best restaurant in the UK, up from number 91 last year. Interesting to note that last year was its first year of trading as well, so that's a remarkable success story. The Moat House in Acton Trussell has also been the focus this month of a new television series, The Motorway Hotel, highlighting one of the finest pub hotels in the county and somewhere that I'm sure a lot of us have visited. So great to see national recognition for some of our foodie destinations. We've also recently heard the news that Stafford College's Riverbank restaurant has received 3 national awards, the only college restaurant in these parts to do so, and this highlights the importance of our colleges in training the staff who work in hospitality and tourism, and the great successes that they have in feeding that demand that we have. I should just say as well, it's not mentioned on here, but the Mulberry restaurant in Burton near me is also a fantastic fine dining experience, staffed by local students. Really, really great training offer, but also really good places to dine. Over the coming weeks, we will have the return of two of our very successful food and drink festivals within the county. Firstly, one of my personal favourites, the Love Cheese live event, which is taking place at the county showground. And also at the end of June, that's at the end of June, and then also in July we have the Stone Food and Drink Festival at Westbridge Park. Now, Love Cheese is actually a national institution now, and it attracts some of the country's best chefs here to the county town, and this year their headlining chef is James Martin. Gasps from Cabinet. So it illustrates the national status of these events. And moving on to our higher education sector, as part of its 75th anniversary celebrations this year, Keele University is holding Keele Day on the 29th of June with a wide range of activities, including workshops, live music, tours and talks, the highlight being a flyby by a Lancaster bomber, reflecting the early days of the university when it was founded. On the same day is National Armed Forces Day, where the National Memorial Arboretum, yet again, will be the focus of national events celebrating the wonderful work of our armed forces, putting themselves in harm's way to protect us all. Finally, at the start of July, we will see the Lichfield Festival, which continues to run an enormous success again with national profile. This year across 11 days, with over 60 music, theatre and ballet performances at venues across the city. What a magnificent set of events taking place around our county. As this is Staffordshire and it's Theme Park Central, it would be remiss of me not to mention our two major theme parks as well, Alton Towers and Drayton Manor, both of which have announced some of their plans for the summer in recent weeks. Alton Towers is unveiling its biggest package of summer events for families, which can be booked today, and Drayton Manor is running a programme of late opening music events in weekends across July and August. So whatever your interest and wherever you are in the county, or indeed wherever you might be looking in from further afield, Staffordshire has an enormous amount to offer this summer. It is a huge part of our economy, which is why I felt it was important to focus on that today. Nearly £2 billion for our economy, over 30,000 people employed, and what a wonderful set of attractions they're employed within. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, and what an upbeat report. It's great to see so much going on around the county of Staffordshire, and I know with the Lichfield Festival in my area, it's huge and has a very, very big impact just on the city of Lichfield, but more broadly. And I know that all these events have a big effect, and it's testament to the size of the tourism sector. And I recall going to the Tourism Awards on one occasion, had no idea of the scale of the tourism spend in this county, and it's good to see it thriving. Right, next item on the agenda is the agenda item 7, which is the final financial outturn, brought to you by myself and predominantly the Cabinet Member for Finance and Resources, Councillor Parry. You'll notice in the Cabinet reports this time round, because we're in PERDA, there are no attributable remarks to Cabinet members, but that doesn't stop us making remarks on the run-up to this. I'd just like to point out for those people who perhaps saw on the BBC website that Staffordshire County Council reporting an overspend, I think of 3.8 million, something like that, on a £700 million budget. It is a very, very small percentage of our overall spend, and when you compare to other authorities and the travails that they're going through, I note, Councillor Parry, that we published a medium-term financial strategy, that is our budget, for the 5 years ahead, which, unlike many local authorities currently, is balanced for the 5-year term. So I do think that we are managing our resources extremely well. That is testament to yourself and the finance team led by Mr Shakespeare. Thank you very much indeed, and it's good to have you on board fully as our Section 151 officer. So with that, Councillor Parry, if I can hand over to you to take us through the report. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Yes, I'm reporting this morning to Cabinet the final outturn of the 2023-24 budget. Therefore, we're looking at this in retrospect. The financial year, of course, ended 31st of March, so we are looking back and reporting on how that year has gone in financial terms. Excuse me. And as you said, Leader, the overspend, broadly in line with the Q4 report that I brought to Cabinet a few weeks ago, is within, if you like, an acceptable target of 0.5%. And apologies to the Leader that I couldn't recall that figure when he challenged me earlier this morning, because I wasn't paying attention probably. But 0.5% I think is within an acceptable limit. There are overspends underlying that, and I think I need to sort of, for purposes of transparency, bring those forward. There are overspends in children's and adults, including homeschool transport, but this is offset by underspends in adults and other parts of the budget, and I'll go through in a bit more detail shortly. Within this position, as approved by the Cabinet and the Council for the medium-term financial strategy, we've also needed to utilise some of our contingency to bolster the inflation reserve. And as the Deputy Leader has already reported this morning, inflation itself is down to target at 2%, yippee, and that means that moving forward we can be less cautious about our inflation reserves and contingencies in future years, hopefully as inflation stabilises and we can manage any of those pressures within budgets. We've also been able to establish a children's care market reserve, and we've identified funding to support our Care Director replacement programme, which is an important change within our adult social care sector. The capital programme itself is broadly online, but there are slight advancements of works within the highways of around 4 million, and some slippage within the schools capital programme, around 3.5 million. And of course, weather affects construction, and weather has affected some of this work, meaning that there is some slippage in there. There's also £1 million worth of capital savings overall, in other programmes overall, and will be delivered to the original timescales. You will also note that the financial health indicators for us are all green. The team has met the statutory deadline to produce and publish the draft statement of accounts. That in itself is quite an achievement these days, and I'm very grateful to Mr. Shakespeare's predecessor, Rob Salmon, and to Mr. Shakespeare and his team for all the work in achieving these results, in addition to all the corporate directors and budget holders within the county who've done a remarkable job of budget management and ensuring that in almost all cases we've kept to budget. I have some recommendations for you, Leader, but I just wanted to, for transparency, just dig a little bit deeper into some of those behind those headline figures that I gave before. So as I said, the overall headline figure is that 3.8 million, which compares to 3.9 million roughly at Q4. So a slight improvement overall at the final wash-up stage. There was a saving of 5.2 million in health and care from a range of changes, including savings from vacancies in adult learning disability team, etc., and other areas around doles and adult social care discharge grant, etc., amounting to that £5.2 million worth of savings, and 3.9 million in care commissioning. There's also there is the question of the major overspend, which is the main part of the budget overspend, which is attributable to children's services, which is 9.7 million, due to significantly higher demand than we forecast. But now we're seeing a reduction in the demand of children coming into the care system, and would expect to see those overspends being arrested and declining over the period of the MTFS. Also, there's an overspend in education services due to pressures for SEND transport, and we've also seen a significant increase in the demand for education, health and care plans. So that amounts to a 2.3 million adding up to the 11.3 million overspend, which is, if you like, the spike in the overspend in the budget. In terms of our capital programme, the final outturn is 119.6 million, which compares to the 125.7 million that we forecast at Q4. The movement in that can be explained in schools and highway areas. A decrease of 5.7 million saving against new or expanding schools has arisen due to various factors, including delay to that wet weather that I explained, and contractor retentions and delays due to changes in building regulations and planning consents. Capital programs are never straightforward, they're never perfect, they never seem to land perfectly on schedule. So there is always an element, potentially an element of slippage that we have to manage. There's also a saving of 2.6 million against the capital improvements at existing schools as a result, again, of slippage and rephrasing of projects into the current financial year. In highways, maintenance and transport costs have increased by 3.1 due to opportunities taken to mobilise work earlier than scheduled on the Derby Road project, and other highway and developer fund schemes have increased by 1.8 million as a result of delivery of the increased programme developer funded works. Finally, just wanted to raise, because this is an area I think which concerns some, and I noted that the press comment also reflected this, that the high needs block is now overspent by 20.2 million and reflects the continuing growing demand for special educational needs support. This is impacting across all areas, but especially the independent sector, with numbers now more than double what they were just 4 years ago, and given the more expensive placement costs, by some way the largest budget pressure in the high needs block. The overspend will be charged against the DSD, the Direct Schools Grant Reserve, which sits in our balance sheet, and at the end of 2022-23 was already 14.2 million in deficit. So given the overspend this year, this has now deepened to a deficit of 30.8 million at the end of 23-24. And after allowing for other transfers from the early years block, the central block, and most significantly the surplus growth contributions as approved by the Schools Forum. To explain that in a bit more simplistic language, this means that this is something which is managed by Schools Forum as the part of the Direct Schools Grant. It sits in our balance sheets as a deficit, but is managed through an approval by a ministerial approval to ensure that we are not directly, at the moment, liable for that debt. And at some point, this is going to be a debt which has to be realised by all of councils. There was a report this week that says there's about £1 billion worth of debt to do with SEND and the high needs block across the councils. If that was pushed over into council's liability, which it isn't necessarily, that would potentially cause untold havoc financially across the local government sector. This needs to be sorted at some point, and our future government will need to work out how we are going to address the problem of demand around the SEND high needs block and the deficit that it's now that's now growing. So at the moment we have the statutory override, which will last for another couple of years, but then there needs to be a decision taken. I just wanted to raise that because it is there, it sits in our finances. I don't think it's something we need to, at the moment, worry about, because that's, as I say, something which is not directly, at the moment, our liability. The good news is the rest of the council is financially stable, well run, has good reserves, and has good financial control, and has the capacity to invest, as the leaders already said, to invest in new care infrastructure, provision for children and young people, the economy, countryside, etc. So that capacity to invest is also there as well, which I think reflects the financially stable position that the council is in. Finally, then, Leader, if I may go to recommendations, I'll hold. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Parry. I'm going to turn now to Councillor Price, particularly around the education, then Councillor Sutton. The council is well run. The education department is well run, but the fact of the matter is we've been handed down responsibilities from central government without the money to back it off. And so we do as a job as efficiently as we can with the legal obligations that we've been handed. Even with that, we find ourselves in a deficit position. That is, we spend more than we receive as a consequence of obligations which exceed the money that's allocated to them. It's as straightforward as that. Councillor Price, if you could just say a few words about that, and also the Schools Capital Fund programme as well.
Yeah, the Schools Capital programme is a couple of the projects were held up by bad weather and obviously some contractual issues, but those have been resolved, and actually those schools are on time and will be open on time, so I'm really pleased to see that. I appreciate Councillor Parry as well talking about the high needs block in particular, and that is a real area of concern, and as members know here, we've had long and lengthy discussions around that. The high needs block deficit is due to be overspent to a combined total of about £30 million by the end of the year. Although the county council themselves are doing everything through their deficit management plan to try and mitigate some of those rising costs, but those costs have increased. Of course, the rise in educational healthcare plan numbers also means a rise in transport as well, and that is why we're trying to manage the SEND transport deficit as well. As rightly raised, there is a statutory override, which means that the deficit is not managed within our actual or shown on the books as our budget, but ultimately it is still real money that the county council is responsible for. Whichever government gets in July, this is a significant problem, not just for us, but it's a national issue across all local authorities, as Councillor Parry rightly said, and it's something that needs to be tackled sooner rather than later, because the figure will continue to rise. We're doing everything we can to manage the SEND budget here, and the Department for Education acknowledge that we are doing everything right through our SEND transformation and the way that we are delivering SEND and supporting vulnerable children, but costs simply have continued to rise and are not being supported by the money that we receive, hence the deficit getting larger. Independent sector is a problem as well, and the increase in fees. I have looked at some of these fees, and I do struggle personally to understand how some of these schools have managed to come up in the independent sector with some of the amount of money that they're requesting to support our SEND children. It's a lot, and we're talking the substantial increases. We are, however, supporting more of our mainstream or more of our SEND children within the mainstream setting, which is freeing up special school places, allowing our schools to be able to support our children without the need for independent sector, and is absolutely the right thing to do as a local authority, and can be done within appropriate costs. So we are trying to mitigate the need for that independent sector. There will always be a need for the independent sector, but ultimately our own special schools should have and do have the capability and do a fantastic job across the county to support our own vulnerable children. And interestingly, of course, we're also seeing the rise in those SEND children being supported within a mainstream setting, which is really pleasing to see as well, because absolutely that's the appropriate place for them. But despite all of the mitigations, the 0.5% switch that we had from the schools forum and the work that we're doing around making sure that we're supporting children earlier, we will still see that increase in the high needs block overspend, and at some point national government, whoever they are, as I've said, will need to tackle this head on and support local authorities with those rising costs. Thank you.
Councillor Sutton.
Thank you, Leader. During the past 12 months, the number of children that are in our care are slowly and steadily reduced. That amounts to a lot of hard work on behalf of our staff in working with families in the first instance to try and ensure that children are kept with families where they can and don't need to go into the care system. Having said that, of course, whenever a child is in need for a safeguarding reason to come into care, we will absolutely always make the decision that right and proper decision going forward. The majority of the overspend in children's services relates to the high cost of residential placements. And to that end, we are trying hard to bolster our foster care offer and ensure we have sufficient foster carers. So that is a good and also the first alternative for when children come into care, so they stay with a loving family. Recently, we have had foster carer awards and been able to value highly some of those foster carers who carry out a really valuable and rewarding role in looking after some of our most vulnerable children. In relation to the high cost of residential care, we are looking to tackle this in one main way, and that is the introduction over the next 12 months and going forward of a series of our own residential children's homes that will be managed internally by ourselves. This, I think, will help to address the higher costs, give more capacity in the market and make it easier for our placements team to look for the right places for our children. And of course, that will give us the opportunity going forward to ensure that we always have the right place and the right opportunity for the children that we take into our care, because I think we absolutely owe children in the county that, but also it will help to address the cost, which is also important, because every penny that we have to spend on children in high cost residential in the private market, we're not able to spend that money on the whole of the system in looking after and preventing children going into care and being able to work with families going forward. Thank you, Leader.
Councillor White.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Councillor Parry, for a very strong update there on our finances. I have to just comment briefly on the topic we've rightly spent some time on today in terms of SEND funding. Once we're through the election and assuming we've got a government with a working majority, in the absence of another pandemic or similar, there is no excuse for a new government to do anything other than deal with this issue head on. It absolutely has to be resolved, because councils cannot solve this on our own. And I think the accumulated deficit in this area is 3.2 billion, isn't it, Councillor Parry? Yes, so this is something that the next government, whoever they may be, simply has to tackle head on, no excuses. But I don't think we need to make any excuses for how we're managing our finances here. And kudos to you, Councillor Parry, and to Mr. Shakespeare and his team. 99.5% out of 100 is a incredible score. Whatever you're doing, and I think the resilience in our finances, the fact that we have built up a strong reserve to deal with events such as exceptionally high inflation, exceptionally bad weather, and to be able to do it in a no-fuss way, as we've been able to do here, in contrast to other councils, where there is a great deal of fuss, I think speaks very well for the way that we do these things. So thank you for that. It allows us to invest in areas such as developing our economy and running really good services for our residents, which is really the point of it all, isn't it? They're not just numbers on a spreadsheet. And thank you very much for doing the hard work to make sure that we're able to do that.
Councillor DeVille and then Councillor Wilcox.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Parry, for that very, very useful update. And The leader's right. Staffordshire County Council is a well-run council. If I may, Chairman, just mention the highway service very briefly, and I'm delighted that, as Councillor White said, we face major challenges, not just weather, but inflationary challenges, and I'm delighted that the highway service has reached successfully a break-even point. Yes, there were delays, mainly due to weather, on major projects, but I'm also delighted, colleagues, to say that we have a very rigid plan on getting this time back and on eliminating any major issues that our residents will see with regard to these delays. I'm also delighted, Chairman, that with the prudent way that we operate this council, with the way that we spend our money in the very, very best way, we are able to invest additional funds into our future highways programme. And I'm delighted that we're embarking on a programme of recovery to massively improve the state of our roads and to fix more defects quicker and in a better way. And this is all the result of a good budget. A very, very grounded and balanced budget does enable us to invest in highways on additional crews, which are out and about in the county now, repairing our roads, and indeed in some additional equipment, which also will be very, very well used. So thanks again, Mr. Parry, for this very, very positive update on our finances.
Councillor Wilcox, then back to Councillor Parry for the recommendations.
Thank you, Leader, and good morning, everyone. And again, thanks to Councillor Parry for sharing with us the final outturn position. And whilst it's good to see under the umbrella of health and care savings of £5 million plus, some words of caution for future years and some significant challenges that we will have, one of which is the recurrent income from the Department of Health and Social Care, together with the cost pressures on care services for young adults. They're likely to, in the future, increase and therefore reduce any underspend that we have. So just a word of caution in relation to that, Leader, but a really good position, and we will keep a watchful eye on those situations to make sure that we're keeping within our budgets. But thank you for the report, Councillor Parry.
It's clear the challenges that portfolio holders face on a day-to-day basis of managing their budgets is pretty significant. But Councillor Parry, you bring the whole thing together quite neatly for us in an almost balanced budget, but or sort of balanced outturn. But back with you, please.
And I would add also to that note of caution that, you know, any change to the local government settlement in the autumn, which might be influenced by other changes nationally, is something we need to keep an eye on as well, because clearly any government will need to take account of the pressures within local government that we've already addressed this morning. If I can offer to you, Cabinet members, recommendations for you which deal with the outcome, if you like, of the year end. Firstly, that I recommend to Cabinet that they note the final outturn position and approve the financing of the overspend from general balances, and that B, Cabinet members approve the contribution of the underspends described in paragraphs 86 to 92 into reserves for the purposes set out in the report, and finally C, that Cabinet members approve the capital financing arrangements that are set out in detail in Appendix 3. I move, Leader.
You've heard the recommendations. All those in favour?
Agreed.
That is unanimous. Moving on to agenda item number 8, and it can't have escaped people's attention that this is nearly 130 pages of documentation for this report. And it is to Councillor Deville we turn to take us through the Staffordshire Bus Service Improvement Plan for 2024.
Yes, Leader,
Councillor
and
Deville.
you'll be very relieved to know that this presentation, although it's 100 and odd pages long, this presentation will take me very little more than 30 minutes, Chairman. Only joking, of course, colleagues. Really, really important plan, colleagues. Staffordshire, the leader earlier was speaking about the great attractions around our county. So it's essential that we're able to reach those destinations. And it's essential that people are able to reach those destinations across Staffordshire by bus. So I think this programme and this plan is really, really important. Oh, and of course, the Deputy Leader, in his comprehensive run around Staffordshire earlier, it was great to see the England squad leaving St George's Park, wasn't it? And I'm sure Cabinet will join me and all colleagues will join me in wishing Gareth Southgate's squad all the very, very best in the coming Euros. St George's Park is another great attraction within Staffordshire. So we're committed to supporting public transport in Staffordshire so that we can access these wonderful theme parks and attractions in the county. And we are massively supportive of our transport and sustainable travel options. This is really important. And whilst we as a county do not operate bus services, through the government's national bus strategy, we certainly can help to shape how these services are provided. And we'll continue to work very closely with our operators to bid for money to update all vehicles, to improve passenger facilities, and to encourage our partner bus companies to innovate for the future. This is really, really important. And our ambitious bus service improvement plan aims to boost travel access, to increase service information and employment opportunities, whilst also contributing towards and achieving the county's carbon net zero targets. We're committing funds to help grow bus patronage and to ensure existing routes are not cut. Colleagues, we will aim to strengthen our enhanced partnership with bus operators to ensure that they play their part in delivering this plan through driver training, through marketing campaigns and through bus services that everyone can rely on. From 2025-2026, all supported bus services will be reviewed annually to ensure that they continue to contribute to the goal of increasing bus patronage. So it's really important that we have a plan, but it's even more important, colleagues, that we monitor that plan, that we measure progress. A high quality and efficient transport system is massively important to our economic and our environmental ambitions. And it's essential to connect our communities to create employment and skills opportunities for everyone, including, importantly, those people who do not have access to a car. Colleagues, I reiterate the need for an enhanced partnership. This is really important, the partnership with our operators. We have a tremendous opportunity here to deliver very real, tangible improvements. Our bus services across this county need to be improved, and I therefore have some real and measurable asks of our bus operators. A, to improve reliability of service and to provide much improved customer service. To maximise the use of marketing campaigns so that patronage is increased on our bus routes. Thirdly, to provide well-planned timetables and then importantly, to adhere to these timetables. To invest in a good information and a communication system and to participate in a bus users forum that I'm currently working on. This forum will be really, really important and will consist of county councillors, representatives of user groups and bus companies themselves. This is a really exciting opportunity, colleagues. And the plan you see today is extremely comprehensive and it's an evolving plan. It's a plan that will provide practical and tangible benefits to everyone in our county. And it's a massive opportunity for us all, and I look forward to delivering these transport benefits over coming years. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor DeVille. Councillor Sutton.
Thank you, Councillor DeVille. Really think this is a good a good report, and I'll be interested to see how this goes forward. A couple of things I wanted to mention, and one particular ask really. It's pleasing to see that it takes account of the fact that many of our residents' journeys aren't just within Staffordshire, but they go to conurbations around the county, which to a lot of people is really important. Secondly, it's good to see that there is a review coming forward of the Wolverhampton-Stafford corridor and the bus routes along there, particularly as there's going to be a significant amount of development along that line, and as we want to see developments that are sustainable. You know, access to public transport is an important part of that. So the question I have, or a reassurance really, is that when we go forward and consider this, we will do this together with looking at other public transport, namely the railway train services, so that we get a joined up and coordinated approach where we possibly can, or certainly work with others to try and get that.
Councillor Parry.
Yeah, thanks very much indeed for this report, Councillor DeVille. This is, it does reflect, doesn't it, that the kind of bus network and facilities that we would like to be able to offer, and the service that residents often would like, is without significant subsidy, is remarkably difficult to achieve, if not impossible to achieve, in a larger rural county. And if we look at the graph on the map on Figure 1, you see that great swathe of green throughout the map that demonstrates where it's almost impossible to provide a reasonable usage bus service, and that most of the county is therefore without a bus service. And we have to accept that rurality means public transport is far more difficult to achieve. This report is excellent in the sense that it shows, even to provide the level of service in a rural county that we are able to support only through partnership and through some judicious use of subsidy, shows how complicated that is, how involved it is to actually micromanage in many respects where you can reasonably deliver some form of acceptable public transport in areas where it's just darn well impossible to do so. But really pleasing to note that we've managed to achieve proposals to increase that connectivity between towns, which I think many people feel is lacking, you know, so that route between Uttoxeter down through towards Lichfield, for example, joined up there between Stone and Eccleshall and Stone and Stafford. Some of those connections have been broken and lost, and which is, I think, caused some difficulty for public transport users. As the proud owner now of a bus pass, which I use from time to time, more frequently than you would imagine. Yeah, it's a student one, that's right. I do enjoy, I must say, I do enjoy the benefits of being able to use public transport in Staffordshire, where it exists, obviously. But this just shows we've not left this alone. We've not said it's nothing to do with us, we don't want anything to do with it kind of thing, private sector, get out there and deliver buses. We've actually, I think, taken the resources that have been made available to try and carve out as good a picture, as good a service as can possibly practically be achieved with that partnership. And this report really puts that into some detail. So I think it's a remarkable and great piece of work.
Councillor Wilcox.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor DeVille, excellent report, and a really challenging but really enthusiastic and exciting plan going forward for the bus services. Really important to our rural areas. The buses are extremely important. I'm really pleased to see that particular areas like Burntwood and Cannock Chase are having extended hours of bus service being provided, particularly to get into other cities and towns, particularly to get into Tamworth and whatever. So that increased frequency and extended hours will really help for those people to be able to get to those other economies that are really looking for extension of footfall, etc., to bring revenue into them. So really excited to see that now we are addressing the situation with buses and they're actually looking to increase the services. And we just need to make sure now that our residents actually use them, to make sure that they're staffed and that they actually are able to operate continuously, particularly with the extended hours. So thank you very much for that, Councillor DeVille.
Thank you. I've got to say that for those people who criticise Staffordshire County Council for either not caring or having no interest in public transport, this report completely scotches that. We take it tremendously seriously. We spend a lot of time thinking about it. We spend an awful lot of time talking about it. We don't provide bus services, but what we do is try to facilitate the adequate provision of public transport across the county of Staffordshire and, as Councillor Sutton correctly pointed out, recognise that quite a lot of our residents commute in and out of Staffordshire, the county of Staffordshire, on a daily basis, and it's vital that they're able to get to where they need to be every day that they want to go there. I'm absolutely over the moon to understand how frequently Councillor Parry is now using the buses. I'd love to see him on a bus, but just last week I took a car for service and I jumped on a bus now. Oh, right, excellent. So, Councillor DeVille, back with you. Thanks very much for this report. It's excellent.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman, and thanks for the really positive comments. And you're right, Councillor Wilcox. We have a big part to play, and we take this very, very seriously. I think accessing different parts within the county and indeed outside the county is massively important. So I hope that everyone will see that we take this massively important. It's a very well-grounded strategic plan. We're going to measure progress very, very closely, because I often say if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. So we're really keeping our fingers on the pulse with regard to this. But I think addressing Councillor Parry and Councillor Sutton's points, key to the delivery of this, you can put all the plans that you want into place. It's all about delivery. And I think key to good delivery is that partnership, that strong partnership between ourselves, the bus operators and the user groups. Councillor Sutton is absolutely right. Through good working partnerships, we should be and will be looking at integrating our bus services from our more remote areas onto the rail networks, which then, of course, can link to local international airports at Manchester and at East Midlands. It will also provide a convenient through route to Trent Bridge Cricket Ground and Old Trafford Cricket Ground. Perfect. So Mr Sutton is dead right. We need to integrate the bus services within Staffordshire to how we improve movements out of Staffordshire. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you. For those that are unaware, Councillor DeVille and Councillor Parry have long wished for a first-class cricket ground in Staffordshire. Failing that, a good bus service to a first-class cricket ground will suffice. The previous chief executive may have promised, but you're not going to get. You've heard the recommendations. All those in favour? Agreed. That is unanimous. Thank you very much indeed, Councillor DeVille. The next item on the agenda is the Staffordshire Leaders Board Terms of Reference. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm absolutely delighted to report that Stoke-on-Trent City Council wish to join the Leaders Board. It is absolutely fantastic news that the family of Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent come together to present a united voice to central government and the wider region about what we're capable of in the area of Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent. We are much, much more powerful together, and that was best demonstrated by Councillor Jane Ashworth, who is the leader of Stoke-on-Trent City Council. Almost one of her first acts was to notify our Deputy Leader that she wished to join the Local Visitor Partnership, or Local Visitor Economy Partnership, and unite in creating a a substantive visitor offer for Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent, and I think you were successful almost immediately with that, weren't you, Councillor White? So that just demonstrates how powerful we are when we can work together. In order to bring Stoke-on-Trent City Council into the board, we have to change the terms of reference slightly, and this report simply asks for those terms of references to be amended to accommodate the City of Stoke-on-Trent as part of our family of Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent. There's quite a lot of planning that we're doing and thinking that we're doing about what the future could look like, how we're going to present ourselves to government in due course, and I'm excited about what the future holds. I know the two chief executives of Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent work closely together on both health, economy, devolution and other matters, and as those projects emerge, I'm sure that we'll be able to update you on those in due course. But in the meantime, this is merely a housekeeping exercise to change those terms of reference, but I need approval of Cabinet in order to make that happen. So I don't intend to dwell much more than that unless there are any questions about it. Simply to say, will you note and agree the updated terms of reference for the Leaders Board? It is in a set of appendices for you to read. It's more for public consumption, I think, than it is for consumption around this table, but we need the decision come what may. With that, does anybody have any comments or observations? Councillor White.
So I've got half a dozen detail. No, I haven't got any of those. No, I just wanted to. Add my my positive comments to yours regarding that one Staffordshire approach that we now have in terms of approaching national institutions, and the local visitor economy partnership is a really important starting point with that. As we were discussing earlier, a £2 billion economy across Staffordshire, tens of thousands of jobs. The world does not care whether it's the city council area or the county council area that they're visiting to come to an attraction. What they want to be able to do is to join those things up. So they might visit Wedgwood in the city of Stoke-on-Trent and then go to Alton Towers in the county of Staffordshire, for example, of a weekend. So that joined up working is really important. We're doing the same in terms of the successor arrangements to our local enterprise partnerships, so the economy more widely. We sat in this room, you and I, with the leader and deputy leader of the City Council a few short weeks ago to have the inaugural meeting of the successor to that. This joint working is incredibly important, and in discussing that city and county positive working that we've got, the other thing to say is that, of course, for many years, we've been working incredibly positively with our 8 districts and boroughs, our other councils. The strength of those relationships is incredibly important. Having the rules of the road as to how you navigate that is also really important. But this is just the underpinnings, I think, of a really good culture of working together that we have here in Staffordshire in local government, and long may that continue.
Thank you, Councillor White. You've heard the recommendations. All those in favour? Thank you.
Agreed.
Right, moving forward to decisions taken by Cabinet members under delegated powers. Just need to get to the right page. There's just the one, which is taken by the Cabinet Member for Education and Sending, improving the implementation of the recommendations contained in the formal report from the Local Government Ombudsman and Social Care Ombudsman in relation to a complaint against the Council. Then on to agenda item 11, which is the forward plan of key decisions. In July in public, we've got the Treasury Management Report for the year ended 31st of March 2024. For Mr. Shakespeare, seeing as that's your first one, it's the return of our money, not the return on our money that we're interested in that report. So it is a very, very important report for you. And if you remember the Icelandic bank stuff that went on, we rely on Councillor Parry and yourself to make sure that you tell us each 6 months that we're going to get our money back. So very important report. Again in public, Children and Young People's Emotional Health and Wellbeing Service, brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Children and Young People, Councillor Sutton. The Digital Innovation Strategy for Staffordshire County Council, brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Finance and Resources, Councillor Parry. Integrated Performance Report, Quarter 1, 24-25, brought to you by myself. I think that's a new format report, isn't it? Yes, so that'll be a new format. That's very exciting to have a new format. Kerry. In public, options appraisal for contracting mechanisms for alternative provision for children and young people, brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Education and Send, Councillor Price. In private, in July, unregulated placement update, brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Children and Young People, Councillor Sutton. In August, we take a break. I think we deserve it, really. I think you deserve it, Kerry, as much as anything else. In public, the Communities Strategy, brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Communities and Culture, Councillor Wilson. In public, Intelligent Transport System Maintenance Contract, brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Commercial Matters. The recommissioning of contracting arrangements for the supply of residential and nursing care home placements, a very important report brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Health and Care, Councillor Wilcox, which will be in some detail, I suspect, Councillor Wilcox, please. Delivery plan and updates for the Housing with Care Strategy and Daycare Services, again brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Health and Care, Councillor Wilcox. Recommissioning of contract arrangements for children's community support, including domiciliary care, brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Children and Young People, Councillor Sutton. The Staffordshire Cultural Strategy, brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Communities and Culture. A bit of, Councillor Wilson, a bit of lifting of the meeting in September because it's going to be quite heavy. In public, the resettlement team, brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Communities and Culture, Councillor Wilson. And then in private, additional nursing capacity, brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Health and Care, Councillor Wilcox. In October, we've got the Integrated Performance Report Q2, brought to you by myself. The Supported Living Commissioning Update, brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Health and Care, Councillor Wilcox. And in private, in October, Unregulated Placement Update, brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Children and Young People, Councillor Sutton. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the meeting of Cabinet. Thank you.